She inspired so much passion. People either loved her or hated her. Let's start with why they loved her so much.
The loyalists that saw her as the embodiment of true conservatism. And what we have to look back to is those 2 decades, really, before she became Prime Minister in 1979, and Britain had appeared to be in a state of gradual decline, and the job of politicians was becoming the management of decline rather than doing anything positive. And what her admirers liked was the way she came to office as a battling Prime Minister, as a woman with a real force of character, and she took situations by the scruff of the neck and shook them up, and she took hard decisions. Of course, a lot of other people down at the other end of the policy problems, people who worked in old state industries like mining, steelworks and so on, those industries were in severe decline anyway. But Margaret Thatcher appeared so ruthless in the way that she presided over the winding up of those industries that she took all the blame for the pain that was caused. So that's
Which
one
is why
reason.
so many people hate her so much, and why we've been seeing some people celebrating.
Well, absolutely. You go around into the industrial areas in the north of England, and I mean, I've just recently been on holiday with somebody who came from Liverpool. He said, "Do not mention the word Thatcher in front of me. I will probably throw up." I mean, it goes as deeply as that. And they used to, there was something at one stage I remember reporting on called the TBW factor. That bloody woman was
TBW factor,
yes.
She even got that name. But what about today? What kind of an impact have her policies back then had on modern Britain and what we're seeing today?
This is perhaps what makes her a great Prime Minister. And many people, whatever their party political view, would say that the 2 greatest Prime Ministers we've seen in the last century were Clement Attlee, who built the welfare state in Britain after the Second World War, and Margaret Thatcher, who restored Britain's clout in the world, gave it a status internationally that it had lost for years. And really, Margaret Thatcher's name will live on because she was a politician who changed the weather. She forced other parties to change their policies as well as her own. And Tony Blair fully accepted large numbers of Margaret Thatcher's reforms of the trade unions, ballots for trade union leaders, ballots before strikes, that kind of thing.
Finally, you covered Margaret Thatcher as a journalist for many years. What was that like? What can you tell us that we don't know?
When you went to interview her, there was always that electricity in the room. You knew you were always going to come out with a story. And the trouble was, press the wrong button, and she'd go off on a rant for 5 minutes on something totally inconsequential. But I was on the back of the plane with her once, and we said something that she disagreed with, and she said to my colleague, "You are completely and utterly and absolutely wrong." And she prodded him with her finger all the way. We came down to breakfast the next morning, and you could see the bruises all the way from his shoulder to his elbow.
Oh my
she was
gosh.
just as vehement in private as she was in public.